Okay, sirs. So let's start then. Correct? Yep. फिर से चाहे तेरी पनाह कहीं ना जाए जिंदगी गुनाह किया उसे के दिन तरह छोड़ के नहीं भैया गुनाह वाला कुछ नहीं किया लेट्स मूव चलो भैया फर्स्ट हालांकि 10:15 से 12:15 के बीच में यूजली फर्स्ट हो नहीं पाता है उसमें कोई ना कोई आ जाता है यूजली बट वी शैल सी सर लाइफ इज लाइफ इट्स अननोन तो हमने देख ही लिया है कि दिस UELY इज आवर recent code. This is universe, earth, life, and then there is you. ठीक है. Lastly, these four things really help. They do really help you to keep yourself on track of 14 billions almost years of universe history and also yours as well and things like that. ठीक है. In that we were talking about life on land. In that we saw that transport is there, and for the transport we really needed cars, trucks, bikes, and I don't know, aeroplanes and whatnot. But all these needs are dependent upon the high population of the Homo sapiens. And we have clearly seen in the 20th century that as Homo sapiens population has reached to 8 billion, which is supposed to go almost 10 billion in the 21st century, this is the 20th century increase, we have seen a decent amount of decrease in terms of biodiversity as well. So the planet called Earth, that is shared by animals, plants, and Homo sapiens, this has given rise. So these populations have been on the downfall. So biodiversity is certainly under threat. Correct? If we want to decrease population, for that we obviously have national population policy, which then again goes towards total fertility rate, and then also goes towards replacement levels and things like that. This may then birth control is there. In that sense, China has already kept themselves below with the one child policy for almost 30 years or so. So they have done it. Okay, so their due is done in the sense China's due has been done of one China policy. They have advanced their economy to 70 trillion almost. India is still on the 3 trillion economy, so their due is now. है but they are not using any one child policy, but somehow people are getting married and we have got a lot of poverty as well, so a lot of things will depend upon India then, how India handles its population. Ultimately population control will in one way or the other ultimately will involve sex and marriage and also hospitals and I don't know what not, but essentially without this it can't happen. Sex is at the center of that, and that then is induced by the pleasure, as we saw, pleasure, division, and consumption. So there is a thing that we have uh, given as a suggestion, but we will keep seeing it, है ना? केवल मेरे देखने से कुछ नहीं हो जाएगा सर. So that's the case. Correct? Again, let's repeat it. Life on land, transport, population, and sex, pleasure, division, consumption. This is what we are talking about. And life on land is actually coming from this universe, earth, life, and you. Getting transport, population, sex. This is what? Well, pleasure. Pleasure, and this is division, and this is consumption. ठीक है. One thing can be this. What can other be the case? Other case can be you largely leave out the population out of the equation of that you can either control it or manage it or whatever may be the case. And in India as well, we have tried in the 1970s. Indira Gandhi has tried it but failed largely, and after that we adopted ultimately national population policy, and we connected it with the finance commission grants, and we also connected it with somehow child care and mentality care, and try to gear our economy towards manufacturing then somehow. Okay. So that is the case. That has been our experience ultimately. Still we have got decent amount of population in UP, Maharashtra, and Bihar, and the biggest problem is that they are equally poor as well. Not only there is population high, but there is poverty high as well. So that makes the problem even more difficult. Not add to that that they are in agriculture as well. So that is how the 65% population in the agriculture is concerned, and add to that they are also in the rural area as well. Hmm. So they are not very decently connected. So urbanization is an issue. Can you see? I think you should see that the problem is the problem. The problem makes the problem a bigger problem. It's like this. It's feeding on itself. Okay, so in that sense, some external control is needed. Then external agency has to be needed somehow, or I don't know what will change, but we shall see. So that's the case. If we do not deal with the population, then ultimately either we will deprive people with the poverty, or we will provide them with the transport vehicles. So then they will give emissions, and that will raise the climate, and then that will kill biodiversity and animals and plants both. So we have got two ways. This way also doom, and the other way we are somehow not feeling like doing. So ultimately it's a disaster or crisis that we are heading towards. ठीक है? ठीक है. Now let's move toward the third. क्या करेंगे आप? Most likely chances ये है कि life on land will move towards this. Transport तो उन्हें चाहिए ही होगा. Chances are that they will not control population. In that scenario, population will increase. जहाँ घट रही है तो घटेगी, बट मोस्ट इंक्रीज हो रही है, तो इसका मतलब कि वो इंडिया में, पाकिस्तान में, डेमोक्रेटिक रिपब्लिक ऑफ कॉन्गो में और नाइजीरिया में 1 2 3 और 4, ठीक है, बढ़ेगी. गेटिंग. और पॉपुलेशन बढ़ने का मतलब ये है कि ये लोग शादी भी करेंगे, बच्चे भी करेंगे, मैरिज एज वेल एज बर्थ. ठीक है, पॉपुलेशन अगर ना करनी हो, and then they will become consumers as well. They will have division as well. Then they will have violence as well. They will have confusion as well. Because all these things, they will have fear as well. All these things are interconnected. ठीक है? It seems like that they are ready to do that. ठीक है? क्या किया जा सकता है? Let's move then. तो ये है. So chances are this is the equation that most likely population will increase. Nobody will listen to all these things, and they're gonna get married. They're gonna do children as well. They're gonna have confusion, violence, conflict, division, fear, and etc. And then they will also use entertainment as well. They will demand house, they will demand food, they will demand fuel, all sorts of things. Correct? So it seems that our solution, population, then you can control in two ways as well. In case you are thinking like either you can make it forced, either you can force it, or you can um, persuade them. You have two choices. China has applied it with the one child policy already in 1980 to 2010 or 2020s, whatever you want to call it. In India, it has been tried to be forced, but it has not really worked. Instead, rather than that, birth control has been provided. है ना? With and persuasion is not really working. Persuasion properly is actually not really there, to be honest. In the way in the way it has to be there. So in that sense, chances are that they will also demand fuel, and they will also demand transport vehicles as well. In that sense, a better bet will be certainly installing the metro systems, which is something that government of India is doing. Hmm. Also, a safer bet will be installing electric motor vehicles and also electric buses and things like that. Correct? And using the renewable energy. These are the things which the government is certainly doing, and that sufficiently government has already had experience with the force or even also the persuasion. Both ways, these are not they are not stopping. Correct? In that sense, government then ultimately is left with no choice but to leave them in the poverty, which will ultimately lead to violence, which will ultimately lead to the use of police and law and jails, protest, and even if possible, it could also lead to change in politics, and then that way, ultimately, fiscal responsibility and budgetary management or fiscal deficit, etc., will cause trouble then, ultimately. ठीक है जी ठीक है so and both the scenarios are equally uh, appears equally present. Seems like that could be possible. So it appears that it's kind of three type of situations appears. One is they will be persuaded, which they are not doing. Other is like they will consume a lot, and chances are then that they'll be repressed with the police and law and things like poverty and things like that. And the other will be that they will delay it, है ना? They will make illusion by in taking a lot of debt, public debt, increasing public debt, and increasing the fiscal deficit, etc., etc. And although for that we have the FRBM Act and then tax to GDP ratio, and then also the inflation and the growth rate and the foreign policy and the total overall GDP size, whether you are fourth economy, fifth economy, sixth economy, these things will start dwindling away, which are largely associated with the BJP right now, as far as present is concerned. So they might vote, as far as India is concerned, in the central government, either the opposition or INC only, or with the INC with the opposition. Correct. So this might happen, and this might, है ना, not necessarily so, but might lead to these things being not very much considered and being provided a space for these one, which I guess probably will be quite fatal blow, to be honest, not only with the India but also to the world and things like that. So in that sense, I guess it will be interesting to see where it goes. Either way, let's move. So we see that as whenever we talk about India as an issue or anything, any big issue related to India, we certainly have to talk about the central government or the whole of the society, how it works. Society ultimately obviously involves population. Population obviously ultimately in order for it to sustain largely, it involves marriage and then birth as well. Society, if society is to change in terms of GDP and GDP per capita, then this has to go. This has to decrease certainly, and productivity has to increase rather. In that sense, 65% agricultural population will be there, so agriculture has to be improved. Then the rural inflation and the urban inflation, and also the CPI and the WPI, and then the food inflation and fuel inflation, inflation itself, the range and depth. I mean, in how many sector inflation is increasing, that becomes crucial as a data, especially over a period of time, over years especially. So state government elections become also equally important, not only central government. GSDP becomes very important, and equally important is the GDP as well. These two figures are important certainly. Hmm. So when we talk about India, then we talk about Indian economy, Indian polity, which I guess with which we have discussed here. Life on land involves life of humans as well. Humans do a lot of things. In that, one thing is the transport. Transport gives a lot of emissions. Another thing will be food. Food is also equally relevant to the population. And if the human population is high, which is very high in the China and India, or Asia for that matter, and then ultimately in Africa, Africa's natural resources will be used a lot. So world is in quite a mess. Certainly it is. But point is that how will you stop? And how will you change and whatever may be the case? I can see. What is crucial here is certainly the India-US relationship for that matter. In that sense, the relationship between the the emphasis on the market and the labor. So industrial relations or labor laws, as far as we say, labor laws, farm laws. So laws become crucial, whether it be state law, central law. In that sense, the political parties become important. Aam Aadmi Party has a certain sway, and National Congress, CPI, CPIM, BJP, and RJT, TMC. It's like India will have to find a balance between market and the labor. Ultimately, it's about really fiscal prudence. It appears very clear then from here that India and Africa, these two are very important. Keep that in that range. It's not about India, it's not about China anymore in that sense. They are past their train. It's all about India and Africa because that is where I guess somehow their GDP per capita will dictate. India may be the very fifth largest or fourth largest economy in the world and fastest growing and things like that, but their GDP per capita is not that much higher. The real class is there then. I think we should, as a nation, should stop using the GDP as a figure too much. We should rather focus on whether we are on the GDP per capita space. China will be ranked much lower as well when it will be compared with this US and things like that. And that is then equally good. And the same goes for the Russia as well. G7 will be quite high then in that sense. And then it appears Brazil BRICS are the ultimately then. Yes. This consumption can't really go forever. This has to be sustainable, responsible production and consumption. Most likely SDG 12. Yep. Migration rules has to be changed then for that instance. Okay, let's see. Skill India and jobs and job market. I think it's going to be a little bit difficult, um, 30 years or so. But whatever may be the case, in one way or the another, it will be a good time after the 2040s and even 2030s in itself, because most of the people will be somewhere. In that sense, the 2024 election becomes very crucial. But even if something happens here, they can't really provide them the time back or the society in that space. So, yeah, in one way or the another, after the 2030s or 2040s, it's going to be kind of largely okay situation. And this is all the time that we have, at max 10 years or now only 7 years or so. In that sense, every election that happens now and then, which chooses for the next 5 years, becomes crucial, in which Turkey, Russia, and China have already given their verdicts. India and US are yet remaining. Even Australia has given its verdict. Brazil had given its verdict. Labour here, Labour here. UK will give its verdict, which I guess is now being leaded, is now being is certainly performing well. There may be Labour Party coming there, but somehow even Rishi Sunak is leading well as well. Then we have France. Germany has given its work somehow. Poland is working. India and US, and in one sense Pakistan, but well, doesn't really matter much in this sense. These two matter. What's going to happen in the US and Indian elections for the next 5 years then? Because they're going to traverse. Yes. हम्म, ठीक है जी. Life on land. Life on land and life below water. मेरी पनाहे जिंदगी अच्छा. Oh, so, so. So, mm, life on land. And on the land, we have animals, plants, and humans, especially the humans. Biodiversity with the threatened, है ना, threatened, endangered, vulnerable, extinct, वो सब तो है ही है. Air, polluting our air, even the rivers as well, streets, and at the center of all of this is consumption. And the center of all of this is consumption. Hmm. So I think it's time probably that yes, I think I can say it. It's time that we start hitting on the consumption thing. And the very center of all of this is consumption. And for that, we already have a goal of responsible production and consumption. Ingrained in the SDG. Hopefully, it is 12. Industry infrastructures. So what we see is that externally we have already defined what we need to achieve, and from that, then we will start going back inside of our minds, that where exactly the structure is not matching with how what we need to have or need to do inside our minds. Lifestyle for Environment initiative. So, in that sense, the companies that are gonna thrive are really gonna be the one who will ingrain SDG in their long-term strategy, who will align themselves with achieving sustainable development goals. Their long-term strategy should be aligned with that. Mhm. And for that, then medium-term strategy, and there has to be something there in the short-term strategy as well. Short-term, medium-term, and the long-term. ठीक है. Quality education is also matters. So in that sense, the schools have to adopt. In that sense, national education policy will have to adopt more and more. National Education Policy 2020 was really a very different kind of document. But we can't really adopt our schools or colleges without changing our industry first. Or there is a link in between. We can't change our industry without changing our society as well. We can't change our society without working on our traditions in one sense, or beliefs, or philosophy, or religion for that matter, or culture especially, or ourselves. It seems to me that migration will be more. If migration will be more, then there will be more remittances coming, as a skilled worker will go outside of India. But I think, to be honest, all this is quite easy ultimately, because all this ultimately belongs to just the decision of marriage. If one is not married on the typical terms, everything is solved. Because without this structure, nobody can continue the whole structure. So it all depends upon here. Yep, that certainly is the case. Okay. Yep. Consumption ultimately will lead to the consumption of the body in terms of marriage as well. So everything ultimately boils down to that. Okay. Hmm. Marriage. This is an institution that needs to be broken. This is the chain. Life on land and then transport or people and then population as far as in terms of Homo sapiens is concerned, which has increased due to this. And then this also creates all sorts of things, reduced inequalities, gender equality, quality education, zero poverty and hunger and good health and well-being and decent workforce. So women empowerment becomes must in that sense, but consumption, this has to go away. Just only this one. Once it's out, everything is corrected then. But this will not be out without knowing everything about this UV and L and Y. And it's not just this one and consuming something else like that. It should be a result of you not being a consumer and more of a consumer. Then you won't do this and also you won't do anything else as well. Not excessive consumption. You will not be excessive consumer essentially in the first place. Otherwise, then you can read about the what is happening in the politics and will not be able to really affect the politics in one sense speaking, loosely speaking, and the same goes for the economy, same goes for the international relations, same goes for the state news and things like that. If you are here, then you can't do anything. You can just, chances are that very soon you will stop those things as well. So the civil society needs to really correct itself, especially in the Indian African sense. Once there, if as far as youth or anybody is concerned, once this is out, you are into production mode. You are working then. So in that sense, that is good as well, isn't it? Yes. If you are done with this thing, then you are automatically in production in one way or the another, this or that. Because your time will not be going here, your mind will not be going here, and then this will lead to learning. This will lead to better production, and the cycle will then kick off, leading you to higher and higher heights, and then ultimately it will not even have a really decent pull. Mm. Usually our condition is we are if we do not really go higher, then most likely we will go down. So once we eliminate this force, then we can only go up. Yes. 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 I think I will need a break now here. ठीक है जी, ठीक है साहब. ठीक है जी. Pum 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 pum. क्या रहा सर. What we have done here, let's see. Let's have a recap. Discussed marriage, transportation, population, consumption, migration, the Indian years and skilling, states, politics, again Indian scenario, again Indian scenario, UP, Bihar, and Maharashtra, again population scenario. Yeah, so I think we are going good. Wherever we need to arrive, we will arrive. It's just a matter of time, actually. Yes, yes, it is. ठीक है. So, yeah. Now from here, क्या करा जाए? Life on land is something which is now done as an issue. It is important. It is the thing that we are actually trying to discuss somehow. Around then everything else is obviously naturally there. Political action is also there, but every action ultimately boils down to just your action to marriage, your action to pleasure, your action to consumption, your action to division. And once that is gone, you gain certain amount of immensity, and then what comes, most likely you say many and many a things. Most likely you say no to many a things, and then the things that you need to say yes automatically arrives on the horizon. Whatever you do happens also obviously naturally in time, morning, evening, and years and seasons and months and weeks. They do arrive for everyone and also for you as well. It's just that your actions change, your communication change, the thing that you read about change, the thing you speak about changes. Probably also the people towards whom do you speak about also changes maybe. Uh, so that we shall see. Your diet changes, your exercise changes, maybe even your clothes change, the things you read and view and consume in terms of your mind also changes, I guess. People you listen to, the kind of things that you listen to, people whom you respond, whom you do not respond, you think about, people or things that you places or you think about. So your perspectives. I think the first thing that starts changing is your perspective, certainly. Your consumption of what you read, listen, or view starts changing. As soon as you say no to it. And as that happens, then your communication starts changing as well. The things that you write or speak or show One, two, three, four, five, six, and all these six ultimately makes your perspectives. Because these things change, your actions, habits, and relationships will change as well. Chances are that you will leave some actions, you leave some habits, you leave some relationships, and also form some new actions, new habits, and new relationships. In that, chances are that you will start exercising as well. And eating better too. So your health should become better as well. So perspective as well as health and also relationships. And even I guess the sense of meaning or mission as well. So or even your assets maybe. Ultimately, saying no to this starts changing you as a person. Seems. Hmm. Ding 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 ding. बदली रास्ते चलने हर नदी बदली बरख की झुमझुम तेरे जिंदगी तन पे Hmm. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. I see. I see. See. Na 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 na. Perspective. Perspective, actions, habits, and relationships. Just write them. Perspective. These have six things: reading, listening, viewing, writing, speaking, and showing. Six. Also your actions, habits, and relationships. Also your health and your physical assets as well, I guess. Physical as well as money assets. Your sense of meaning as well. Meaning and mission. Chances are that your knowledge about science, social science, and mathematics also increases. Hmm. ठीक है sir. I can sense. Actually, I need a little bit bigger of a break. इसको मैं छोड़ देता हूँ अभी यहीं पर. I'll come back. Yep. आज मैं 12 से पहले आ गई। बहुत सही किया बेटे। बताओ। ओ माँ। हम बढ़िया है, तुम बताओ। अरे नहीं यार, उतना पेड है लेकिन ये सब भैया देखो, टैरो तो पेड है। मांगता हो तो बताओ। मैं ऑनलाइन यूज करती तो जरूर कर देती, नहीं किसी और से करवा दो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। कहीं और से करा दो। है ना। हम्म। See, if you are not doing this, है ना, if you are not going for marriage, then you are also eliminating the pleasure, and then ultimately you are changing your gender relationships, and then you'll have love and compassion. Your perspective will be wide, quite wide enough, quite deep as well. So that will you will get enough time to read as well on a regular basis. And gender wise, you will change your relationship with both male as well as the female, because male ultimately married female as well. So all your friends who got married or who will get married, and all your family members, and then their partners, you will have different relationship with both of them. Not saying that no relationship, you will have different relationship with both of them, not just one of them. So in that sense, your relationship is certainly gonna change. Yes. ठीक है जी, एक ये हो गया। और your relationship with your society will change, your family will change, your friends will change, your relationship with everyone will change, in fact. Yes, I think this much is enough. That you will have different relationship with all the one. Your family, your friends, your lovers, gender, politics, economy, polity, society, everything. You name it. All the relationship that you were having somehow while having the dreams of getting married and things like that will change. I guess this is enough for today. So let's finish this one.